And now we move into worship led by Niki Andre. I invite Niki if you could unmute yourself and turn on your video.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, before we get started, I invite everyone to take some time to get settled and comfortable. So, if you haven't already, shut any unnecessary windows on your computer or your device. Turn off your phone. Shut the door if possible. Let's take a moment here to remember we are in bodies. So, sit up nice and straight. Feel your sit bones making firm contact with the seat beneath you, and reach down towards the earth through the building floorboards. If your feet are touching the ground, make sure they are firmly planted. Now let's take a few breaths together. On your next inhale, let your spine become nice and long, and on an exhale, shoulders move back and down. Ears balanced over shoulders, chin parallel with the ground. Shoulders balanced over hips, and if your feet are on the ground, knees balanced over ankles. Take a moment to notice your breathing. Feel your belly rise and fall with each inhale and exhalation. Notice how your chest subtly expands and contracts as you breathe in and out. Even your arms and legs are almost imperceptibly lengthening and contracting with your breath. Let your breath breathe you. In your own time and at your own pace, I want you to take 3 breaths here to come into your body and this moment, settling into this place in time. Gaze softens. Mind gently opens as you take in these words. Holy Spirit, known to us by many names and beyond all naming, may the words on my lips and the meditations in all our hearts be acceptable to you, O God. Sap runs. Then one day you can smell the damp earth again, and we know it's upon us. Everyone is drowsily rousing from their slumber. Snowdrops, then crocuses, then daffodils. Earthworms are wriggling, morels are pinning, tree buds are swelling. Sunlight is creeping under the window shades before 6 a.m. Spring. I am an avid gardener with homesteading goals. I've been spending the last few months dirt beneath fingernails, palms cupping tiny seeds, gearing up for last weekend. The Victoria Day weekend is the first weekend after our last frost date here in Ontario. Sorry guys, just changing my screen a little. Our first frost date for 2022 is predicted for October 2nd, giving us approximately 135 growing days. But any seasoned grower in our continental climate knows we can extend our season by 3 months or more if we know how to work with nature. So, while the nurseries have been busy with folks picking out seedlings to transplant in their freshly prepped garden beds, I've been growing plants from seed since March. Just over a year ago, I moved into a triplex apartment with a cheerful backyard that I gratefully share with 2 other gardener households. Finally, I had the outdoor real estate to do some serious gardening. I carefully watched how the sun and rain interacted with the trees and hit the unoccupied parts of the yard throughout the day. I selected my corner and set up my planter boxes. I layered their bottoms with wood branches, fallen leaves, twigs, and grass clippings to mimic a slowly decomposing forest floor, then topped them off with soil. This technique, called Hugelkultur in German, replicates the regenerative ecosystem of forest loam. It incorporates a host of microbes, insects, and earthworms which improve soil fertility by helping to retain water, replenish nutrients, and create fresh new soil over time. I'm going to share my screen with you. All this activity also generates heat, which, when contained in planter boxes fitted with adjustable glass lids, warms up the soil sooner and keeps it warm longer. So I could plant my hardier crops early, letting them sprout and grow. Mulching around your plants with more fallen leaves also helps. So by mid-March, last year's mint, garlic, and chives were up, and this year's beets and violas were being sown. By early April, chicory was sprouting, and I was sowing fava beans, cilantro, peas, shallots, radishes, and green onions. I was also starting my most tender crops like tomatoes and peppers under grow lights indoors. And so it went. Now, things look like this. The more I study and practice natural gardening, the more I learn about the perfectly complex ways nature works. Along with my crops, I sowed some plants that would deter bugs that eat them, or at least provide them with alternate, more attractive options. I sowed additional plants to attract pollinators and host other beneficial bugs that would eat the plant-nibbling ones. And I companion planted my crops to create physical and nutrient synergies. Tall or wide sun-loving plants casting shade and discouraging weeds, while more tender, sensitive crops took root in the moist, protected soil below. If crops like corn were heavy nitrogen feeders, I, heeding the indigenous tradition, planted nitrogen givers like pigeon peas nearby. Corn stalks also provide a natural trellis for peas to climb up as they grow. And so on. Multiple natural systems, including seasonal climate, weather patterns, systems of water flow, plants, animals, bacteria, and fungi, are all working symbiotically to support each other and to support life. Did you know that plants release between 11 and 40% of the sugars they make through photosynthesis back into the ground? They don't leak those sugars accidentally. They give them to the soil. They deliberately pump them into the ground to support the bacteria found in the soil immediately around their roots. Bacteria and fungus in the soil unlock the nutrients on which plants depend. They also produce growth chemicals that help plants grow. So, the soil around plant roots, their rhizosphere as it's called, is their microbiome. Yeah, plants have microbiomes too. And they work a lot like our own microbiomes. Plants can call on these microbes to outcompete and attack invading pathogens, create a defensive ring around their roots, or educate the plant's immune cells, sending chemical messages that trigger its defense systems. Who knew? Multiple natural systems, all working symbiotically to support each other and to support life. We're just beginning to scratch the surface of understanding how all these systems interplay and work together. But here's some of what we do know. There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same light. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in everyone, it is the same God at work. Every beetle and pillbug and hoverfly, every microbe and blade of grass, every person, necessary fragments of light. Embodied love. Each working in their own unique way to sustain each other, maintain the balance, and preserve our common home. Each contributing their small, vital piece to the whole. Now, to each one the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. Cynics might contradict, saying that in the natural world these individual players don't work together for the common good so much as for their own self-interest, i.e., that each of these collaborators actually have something personal to gain. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I'd counter that this transactional quid pro quo perspective fails to appreciate how both things are simultaneously true. Ultimately, the common good is also intrinsically in each individual's self-interest as well. Our natural interdependence is by intelligent, divine design. Others might argue that many parts and species in nature actually work against each other or prey upon each other. But I'd again beg that those offering that devil's advocate line of thinking step back and take a wider view. Even though seemingly antagonistic elements happen within a wider natural balance which preserves and maintains the whole. A ladybug population will thin an aphid population, lessening their burden on plants like tomatoes, which animals like humans need for food, but each ladybug, and aphid for that matter, only eats what it needs. Ladybugs don't keep a warehouse of extra kills. There are no enterprising ladybugs creating a supply shortage, so they can charge other ladybugs a 300% markup and afford a few extra hibernation spots. All things being in natural balance, ladybugs leave some aphids who survive to reproduce and create the next generation. Ladybugs also leave food for other insects like lacewings, soldier beetles, and spiders who also need aphids. Everyone eats, everyone thrives. The common good is upheld. Only things aren't in natural balance, and they haven't been for some time. Responsibility for these severe imbalances that are becoming more and more painfully clear fall on one species. In an undisturbed natural system like forests, soil and plant life sequester carbon dioxide, preventing it from releasing into our planet's atmosphere, triggering global warming. In the last 2 centuries since the advent of intensive farming and burning fossil fuels, the Earth's temperature has risen by 1 degree. As a result, the world's availability and distribution of rainfall, snow melt, river flows, and groundwater are being negatively affected. Water scarcity is causing droughts and famine. Some places are now depending on the runoff from glacial melts, but as climate change progresses, those melts will stop too. 95% of our food depends on our soil, but since we began tilling our soil for agriculture, we have literally been tearing up those healthy ecosystems and eroding our soil. Intensive farming practices like herbicides, which contaminate soil, water, and non-targeted vegetation, and fungicides, which harm soil organisms and have been linked to diseases like Alzheimer's, have rapidly compounded the problem. Intensive farming practices like the use of neonicotinoids are also implicated in beehive collapse. We depend on pollinators, of which bees are a primary part, for 75% of our food. It's not only plants' rhizosphere microbiomes that are being changed, humans are rapidly changing too, to our own detriment. The types and amounts of bacteria seen in the guts of those of us living in the industrialized, developed world are extremely reduced when compared to people who largely maintain the diets and lifestyle of our hunter-gatherer ancestors. The Hasda tribe of Tanzania, for example, possess a much greater diversity of beneficial bacteria in their guts. Many of these bacteria are species that researchers have never seen before, and even familiar microbes were present in unusual levels. Here again, we are just scratching the surface of understanding how these trillions of good bacteria protect our health and support life. Scientists are tying healthy microbiomes to good digestion, proper immune function, and mental health. They continue to identify their roles in preventing a whole host of common modern diseases, from diabetes and dementia to food allergies and cancer. Humanity has stopped playing by the rules. We are not okay, and all of creation knows it. If we continue on our current trajectory, we will soon extinguish ourselves. Many theologians have interpreted our scriptures as tasking us with stewarding all of God's gifts, the whole of creation. If that is the case, we've sadly proven ourselves not up for the task. But what if we are failing at achieving our divine purpose because we've been arrogantly interpreting the charge wrong? What if we are not charged with managing the whole planet, all of creation is not our God-given gift, but we are but a small, if essential, piece of that gift of life and to life. Ubuntu is a Zulu word that roughly translated means humanity or humanity towards others. Reverend Fulgence Nadaji Jimana translates the word this way: I am because you are. We can and should extend our understanding of we further. We, all of creation, are one body. And we are because they are. So yes, I am asserting that we've gotten this all wrong. For just as the body is one and has many members, so it is with Christ. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet. For just as the body is one and has many members, so it is with Christ. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet. If one member suffers, all suffer together. And if one member is honored, all rejoice. We should know this. We do know this. But to remember makes us very uncomfortable. More on that tomorrow. In the meantime, I say to you Ubuntu, as a reminder that we are one body, that we are because they are. Ashe and Amen.
Amen, Niki. Thank you for grounding us this morning and taking us and putting us in a place that we gather today. Ubuntu to you as well. And we'll see you tomorrow. I look forward to hearing part 2.
Okay. Thank you, Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.